Hello, my name is Alexandra Sharon, and this is my application to be in a documentary. I'm going to show you a few pictures that you probably won't be able to see too clearly on my cell phone camera, but if I had the right equipment and software skills to make a documentary, I probably wouldn't need the help of a documentarian. So let's get started. I'm a fortune teller, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the people, places, and events that might have shaped that for me. It might have started with these people. This is my grandma and grandpa with my dad as a baby. They fled during the war from Poland and Ukraine to avoid Nazi persecution. There was a lot of stories that circulated about them being of Romani heritage, which is a sort of politically correct term for gypsy. But they didn't like to talk a lot about their history and their culture. There's a lot of fear associated with that at that time. And I understand that my dad had a really difficult time growing up because of them processing all of the things that had happened to them and to their family over in the homeland. My dad was a really interesting fellow. Here's him with a bald eagle that he shot. He used to kill them for a bounty because they were a pest up in northern Canada where he lived. He also didn't really talk a lot about his childhood, although I found it really interesting. He's rather fair-skinned, but he didn't consider himself a white person. I remember him telling me once that we weren't white enough to join the Rosicrucians. Maybe it was just a shock tactic thing, but I found it kind of interesting. It's not that I understand his feelings about the whole issue. Here's him after he wrecked a Mustang. He was definitely an adventurous sort. He's got a big smile on his face, as you can't see. He's smiling because he's alive, not because he wrecked his Mustang, of course. His sense of adventure definitely rubbed off on me. And there's him and myself and my mother. He took me along on all of their travels, which was really wonderful for me as a child growing up. His love for animals also rubbed off on me. That's me with my first cockatiel. Her name is Sydney. She flew away, and my dad told me that she flew back to Australia. And I always believed him, of course. My mother, on the other hand, was sort of this misplaced 50s housewife type soul. This is the obligatory bathtub photos, baby in the bathtub, myself. This is out back, the house that I grew up in once we moved to the United States. And my old dog, Bubbles. Her side of the family was a more boisterous sort. I always joked that I was half gypsy and half inbred in the South for hundreds of years, because they were definitely more willing to talk about what their heritage was all about. I understand a relative there sewed the first Californian flag, and I understand there might be some Cherokee from that side of the family as well. There's my grandparents on her side, myself dressed up as Wonder Woman as a child. There's my dog, Nipper. There's my Aunt Sue from that side of the family, my cousin Matt, and we're at SeaWorld in this photograph. Once I grew up, my Aunt Sue has asked me a lot for help with spell work because she has a lot of difficulties with her colleagues and coworkers, and she likes to solve that with a little bit of magic. Her favorite movie is Practical Magic. My mother was always very industrious, and I was a very spoiled child, so this is my beautiful clubhouse that we dubbed the Eagle's Nest. Here's me leaping off said clubhouse, and that right there next to me is my best friend Mary. We grew up basically like sisters. As a teenager, I was equally spoiled, and even though it was a rather awkward time, of course, as it is for many teenagers, I got a lot of help along from my family. This is me on prom day, hiding from the photographer. Here's my father with my biological half-sister next to him, along with myself and my best friend Mary. She lives in Canada still, and she did not grow up with the family. She lives with a foster home. There's Mary and I at the zoo. I loved bats, and she loved wolves, so we're attired according to our favorite animals. This is me later, all grown up, researching bats in Pennsylvania. They've always been my favorite animals, and they continue to be. Here's me at a wild bat rehabilitation facility in Mineral Wells, Texas, called Bat World Bat Sanctuary. Travel was also very important to myself and my family. Here's my mom and I in Hawaii on my 16th birthday. She took me there as a present, so that was delightful. Here's my dad waiting at an airport with me with passports in hand. Not even sure what travels were going on right now in this picture, but of course always an adventure. Here's me in Spain. I was in a choir that competitively traveled and won a lot of awards, so I got to travel lots for that as well. Here's me at Stonehenge. I want to travel to a lot more sacred sites, and my mother's even thinking about writing a book about sacred sites and traveling to visit all of those. That's me at a replica of the Parthenon that is in Tennessee for some reason. Don't really understand that one, but glad it's there. It's very impressive. First college I went to was the University of Washington. I later went to Seattle University for my master's degree. And here's me in my very first dorm room. I remember my roommate was terrified that she was rooming with a witch. Lots of my little potions and doodads in the background there. And she was kind of nervous about all that, I know. And she was looking for an apartment of her own immediately and left partway through the year. I got to have my own separate dorm room later on, so that was delightful. I started the Northwest Pagans, which was a pagan student group at the University of Washington, which existed after I left, which made me rather proud that I created something that had a little bit of a legacy. Did find some people who understood me. That's my husband, Derek, and that's at our wedding. We had an October hand fasting, so everyone came in costume, and we were dressed as the goddess and god of marriage, Zeus and Hera, as a sort of humorous nod to marriage. And that's my mother and my father, of course, and they were so happy, in part due to the drinks that were served, but also because Derek's a wonderful guy, and I love him a whole lot. My dad was always extremely supportive of me and proud of whatever I did. He even, in fact, when I was digging through my memory box for these pictures, I found that he helped me actually applied on my behalf when I saved a life to receive a medal from the Royal Life Saving Society. This is my medal that I earned for saving a life, and they even have a miniature for, I guess, when it's just too pretentious to wear the larger medal. You can be just a little tiny bit pretentious with a smaller medal. Not sure where I would ever find a reason to wear those. Anyway, still like to travel with my mother. My father passed away. This is her when we went to the Psychics on the Sea cruise with Royal Caribbean. This is her at her table getting ready to do a tarot reading. She's also a professional fortune teller. I often say was when I'm talking to people, and I explain, oh, how did you become a fortune teller? Oh, my mom was a fortune teller. But she still is a fortune teller, and she's just retired now, and I understand that retirement is when you can do something because you want to, not because you have to. Here's me at my table with my braids in my hair because we went to the Bahamas. We got our own sort of little conference room just for us, for the Psychics on the Sea, and this is us preparing. And the two of us outside our sign, so that's kind of where I'll leave you with the explanation of my adventures with this photo, because it's sort of a where shall we go next kind of photo, because, you know, I'm up for some more adventures, always. And thank you for watching this video. Hope that this camera's framing my face right now, and thanks for enduring about 10 minutes